Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to call this meeting to order. And members of the public wishing to address the City Council on items appearing on this agenda are advised to indicate their interest in doing so by submitting a speaker card to city staff or just proceeding to the podium one by one at the time an item is considered. Members of the public wishing to address the City Council on items not appearing on this agenda may do so during item 5. Each speaker will have the opportunity to speak for up to 3 minutes, once per agenda item, unless otherwise allowed by the City Council. Speakers are requested but not required to identify themselves, both on any applicable speaker cards and in comments or testimony. Speakers are advised that their names and any information submitted on speaker cards or otherwise provided in writing to the city may be disclosed or become a matter of public record. No speaker should expect privacy of such information. Madam Clerk, may we have the roll call, please?
Thank you. Councilmember Connors. Here. Councilmember McCary.
Here.
Councilmember Moore.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Horn.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Pledge of Allegiance. Annie, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Everybody rise, please. Face the flag. And together, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation of God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we come to presentations and ceremonial matters, and the first is Holocaust Remembrance Day. Could you please read the proclamation?
No proclamation, just a moment of silence.
Okay, it's just a moment of silence, so we will all observe that. Thank you. Does anyone want to say anything about that? Carol?
I do. I think to just have a moment of silence would be an inadequate way to respond to a very serious issue that happened historically, and it's factual. It's not something that someone can argue that it didn't occur. And to remember that we need to be thoughtful about these things in history so they don't repeat themselves. And remember the lessons of history. If we don't learn the lessons of history, I'm paraphrasing, we're doomed to repeat those same mistakes, and we don't want to do that. So please let us think thoughtfully about an event, a very major, troubling, horrible event that occurred historically, and we certainly don't want something like that happening again. Thank you.
Do you have anything to say? Annie? Okay, thank you. So the next is the Community College Awareness Month. Could you read the proclamation, please?
Proclamation, City of Laguna Woods, Community College Awareness Month, April 2024. Whereas the South Orange County Community College District is one of the largest community college districts in the region, serving approximately 50,000 students on 3 campuses, Saddleback College, Irvine Valley College, and the Advanced Technology and Education Park, known as ATEP. And whereas the South Orange County Community College District is a leader in higher education and enriches lives through learning. And whereas Laguna Woods is part of the South Orange County Community College District's 350 square mile service area. And whereas the South Orange County Community College District is a community partner offering classes at more than 100 community sites beyond its campuses. And whereas the South Orange County Community College District provides outstanding education through more than 400 degree and certificate programs that prepare students to fill local and high-skilled workforce opportunities. Now therefore it be resolved that the Laguna Woods City Council does hereby proclaim April 2024 as Community College Awareness Month in the City of Laguna Woods, and thanks South Orange County Community College District for its service through learning, dated this 17th day of April 2024.
Thank you. And we're fortunate enough to have Marcia Milliger here to speak to this.
Yes, thank you so much. That was it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much. That was a beautiful resolution and very true, so I appreciate it. Good afternoon, Mayor and esteemed members of the Laguna Woods City Council. My name is Marcia Milchiker, and I'm a trustee of the South Orange County Community College District Board of Trustees. I'm honored to be here tonight representing the South Orange County Community College District and accepting this proclamation recognizing Community College Awareness Month. On behalf of our district, faculty, staff, and students, I extend our heartfelt gratitude to the Laguna Woods City Council for acknowledging the vital role that our community colleges play in our society. Community College Awareness Month is a time to celebrate the impact of community colleges on individuals, students, families, and communities. These institutions serve as gateways to higher education and career pathways, offering a diverse array of educational opportunities and resources. In our district, we are committed to providing quality education that transforms lives and strengthens our communities. Our colleges are places of innovation, inclusion, and empowerment, where students from all walks of life can pursue their dreams and aspirations. Our staff is top-notch and caring, and we do change lives. Our colleges rank high. We are #1 transfer institution in the state. That's Irvine Valley College. Our nursing program is #1 in the nation, and that's students that pass the national nursing exam. Our girls softball team is #1 in the nation for the second year in a row. I'm the volunteer science advisor to our Mars rover team, and we are the only community colleges that qualified to compete in the four-year University Rover Challenge in Hanksville, Utah, every year. And our college ranked ahead of Cornell, Berkeley, and India, because this is a national competition. So we serve everyone that can benefit from a community college education. And Laguna Woods is part of our district. And because of this, we also support a very, very wonderful Emeritus Institute program. And I myself, actually, when I was first elected, helped to save the Emeritus Institute and pledged to work to continue, and have continued through the years to save it over the years, and will continue to save it over the years. And this was statewide when it was first threatened statewide, because the state didn't think they could afford continuing adult education. So we fought and won. We have, let me see here. We also fiscally, we add $1.9 billion in income every year and $7.1 billion in overall impact to our community every single year. Every year we serve 50,000 students, and we have 3,000 employees, and we have over 6,000 emeritus students in our colleges at Irvine Valley and Saddleback College. So this proclamation is a testament to the collaborative spirit between our district and the city of Laguna Woods. Together, we are fostering educational excellence and preparing students and continuing to keep students prepared to thrive in an ever-changing world. I'd like to express my gratitude to the City Council for your ongoing support and aid, and for raising awareness about the importance of community colleges that help so many, and 50,000 students a year in our community. Your recognition inspires us to continue our mission of serving students and advancing educational opportunities for all. Thank you again for this honor, and we look forward to continuing our partnership with the City of Laguna Woods and working together to enrich our community colleges, and working together to enrich our community through education, and so many different types of education, which I don't have time to talk about right now, but in many, many different disciplines and arenas, and theater and sports and academia and high tech. So it's really, really a wonderful thing for our students. Thank you so much again.
Thank you. Comments?
Go ahead.
I'm really impressed that your program beat out Berkeley and Cornell. I think that's something you can be proud of.
Yeah, we
And-
are. It's amazing.
and-
Our students are brilliant. They're brilliant students.
And I have enjoyed participating in the emeritus classes. I think that's an excellent gift to the community, so thank you.
I think that it's almost unique in the country. It's so good. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.
You had something to say?
It's impossible to overvalue education. And a famous scientist stated that education is the golden key that unlocks the door to freedom. That scientist was George Washington Carver, who was formerly a slave and became a very important scientist, contributing a great deal to our history. So it's ironic that a person who came from such a background, because he showed us what the value is, and the community college makes it possible because it's affordable. And the community college is a tremendously valuable part of the education system of California. We don't want to forget that. Thank you for supporting it.
Yes, thank you so much. And we have, at $46 a credit hour, it sounds like a lot, but it's the best value in higher education in the country and in the nation. And about 50% of our students don't pay any tuition. They get scholarships and they get financial aid. So we are really helping students to move up to higher education, move into good jobs. We have a wonderful auto tech program and a wonderful robotics program and a wonderful culinary arts program. I could go on and on, but you probably don't want to hear from me for hours, but I could talk for hours about it. So thank you both so much, and thank all of you so much.
Councilmember McCary? Nothing? Okay. I'm so grateful also for everything you do, and you do it so enthusiastically. I also love the Emeritus program. I was lucky enough to get invited to your opening of the stadium with cheerleaders and a football game, and it was so exciting and so beautiful, and you do such a great job. So can I get this proclamation moved, please? Thank you so much. Thank you. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We'll do pictures after the next one, so. Okay, the next proclamation is for Donate Life. And if you could read it, please, Yoli.
Thank you. City of Laguna Woods Donate Life Month, April 2024. Whereas organ, eye, and tissue donations are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as an expression of compassion to those in need, and whereas more than 100,000 people nationwide, including nearly 2,000 children under the age of 18, are waiting for a life-saving transplant, and whereas a single donor can save the lives of up to 8 people, restore sight for up to 2 people, and improve the lives of as many as 75 more. And whereas kidney and partial liver donations can be made while living, and other donations can be made after death. And whereas millions of lives are saved, healed, and enhanced each year by a diverse group of organ, eye, and tissue donors, including older adults. Now therefore be it resolved that the Laguna Woods City Council does hereby proclaim April 2024 as Donate Life Month in the city of Laguna Woods and encourages its residents to consider making living donations as well as signing up as donors with a state-authorized Donate Life California registry, dated the 17th day of April 2024.
Thank you. And we have someone here to accept the proclamation.
Yes, my name is Tony Roof. I'm a One Legacy ambassador, joined by my much better half, Bonnie, back here. I would like to pass this around. This is our son, Elliot. Do need it back. And I apologize in advance if I get a little misty. 2 years ago, Elliot unexpectedly took his life. I will tell you that when a deputy sheriff and someone from the coroner's office appears at your door, your life changes from that moment. There isn't a day that goes by without pain and grief, and I have no expectation that those days will end. One thing that everybody agreed was that Elliot had an amazing talent for choosing the most thoughtful gifts. This is his driver's license. It has a pink donor dot on the license. As of last August, we've been informed that his donations went to 64 people in 15 states.
Wow.
There's probably more now. I have a letter from one of the donor recipients. It says, "Dear donor family, I am writing to say thank you for the generous and caring gift of tissue donation from your loved one. I am so sorry for your loss, but I would like to tell you what a positive impact your decision has had on my life. I hope you will find some comfort in knowing your loved one has helped to restore another person's life. I needed a tissue transplant because of deterioration on my cervical bone. My doctor told me without this surgery, I would eventually have lost my right arm. For this gift, I am very appreciative, and my family and I will always be grateful for the generosity and kindness that you and your loved one have shown. Thank you, Melita." So, I'm here to encourage anyone who is not yet a donor to take that step. You have no idea what a difference it can make in other people's lives. In addition to that, Bonnie and I were talking last night, and I said, you know, if he hadn't done this, when he left us, it would be over. Over. But because of what he has done, he'll be out there forever. So I thank you for the time.
Thank you. I'm going to start on this side, Annie.
Oh, I get back. Thank you.
Excuse me, I have a question.
There's a question for you, sir?
Sir?
Thank you.
Yeah. My understanding is that, well, first, as you said, 60 people. And I think a lot of people think of heart transplants and liver transplants and lung transplants, but there's corneas and ligaments and bone tissue and skin grafts and all kinds of things.
Yeah, eyes.
Eyes. Eyes? Whole eyes?
The cornea.
Eyes and parts of eyes
Wow.
to restore people's sight, if
Okay.
you can imagine.
My understanding, though, is that organ donation works best or works only if a person dies in the hospital. And that for people who are often in our community who may die in home hospice, it may take an hour or more before somebody shows up to declare death, and then however much longer after that it takes to get someone to a facility. And so I would encourage people to look into other types of whole body donation for medical research purposes or to medical schools. But I know people whose lives have been changed by receiving donated tissue, and I think it's an excellent thing. Thank you.
Thank you. I said that he was thoughtful. He didn't take his life when he was at home. 31 years old, did live at home. Also, he left a 3+ page note that explained everything, because when these things happen, one question a lot of people have is why? We know the answer. He didn't blame anyone. Another question people have is, will I see my loved one again? Well, if you can see it, this is his cross. Okay, we know we will see him again. If you're a Christian, it's never goodbye. It's always see you later. One thing that I also wanted to mention is the pink dot. There are no age restrictions. There's donations from very small babies, and believe it or not, there's no age limit. So seriously consider it. If you have any questions, you can see me after. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. Did you want to comment on this, sir?
He's
No. Okay, councils.
So first of all, I want to just thank you for the presentation, and my heart goes out with sympathy and condolences. I recognize the value of organ donations. I am an organ donor. I have donated bone marrow. My brother needed a bone marrow transplant, so I volunteered to donate. I was on the list to be a kidney donor because my sister needed a kidney. Unfortunately, her condition deteriorated where she was no longer a candidate for a tissue. I also have the pink dot on my driver's license. And I spent over 40 years in the healthcare field, and I saw what the organ procurement community does with procuring organs as soon as possible. And I saw the benefit of so many recipients receive from any kind of organ or tissue transplantation or donation. So it is really a great service, one of the greatest services that we can do for our fellow human beings. Thank you.
Cynthia, did you have any other comments? Okay. Carol?
Yes. I too support this. I have had that on my driver's license for probably 35 years at least. And I understand the value of it. We hear about it and from people who their family members were recipients or they were themselves, their family was a donor. So thank you so much for keeping us aware of a very vital program.
We know someone whose child benefited from a double lung transplant, and it changed their lives. Obviously, it gave them life, and both of my parents were whole body donors, as are myself and my husband. Your events are fabulous, so I also support this proclamation. So it's been moved and seconded.
I did second.
So all in favor? Aye. Okay. Any opposed? No. Okay, so this passes. So why don't we pause for a few minutes and take pictures now with each group?
No, I didn't hear her read the thing. She walked up, but she never.
Are we
read
taking a
it,
picture?
did she?
Yes.
I saw her, but I didn't remember hearing it. Oh, she told that. She said that, but I didn't hear it read. She quoted it. She came up and quoted it, but I never heard it read.
You read this proclamation for community college.
You did? I just didn't hear. I heard her talking, but I never heard you. Yes. Pardon? Yes, it okay.
I'll go right next to you so they're staring the same. Huh? Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was beautiful, Mr. Rock.
Would your wife like to join you? Alrighty. Did you can come up closer? All right. Take some photos. Ready? Sorry. I'm good. Thank you. Are you okay? Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. I know it is.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all for coming. Okay, now we have a presentation regarding theft prevention and crime reporting. Captain Cruz Alday, Chief of Police Services, Orange County Sheriff's Department. Welcome, Captain Alday.
Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Thanks for allowing me to be here and making this presentation.
Through this presentation, I would like to highlight our Public Affairs and Communication, our Community Engagement Bureau. And the reason I say that is because they take a large part of what they do is to educate our community into being safe and crime prevention. So I wanted to make sure that I highlighted them and what they've done so far through our community through this presentation. So if we go to the first slide. Public Affairs and Community Engagement, what they do, they're responsible for providing honest and transparent communication, contemporary public safety and drug education to the public, aims to build and maintain a strong reputation by developing mutual beneficial partnerships, and serves as a liaison between the community and the media. One of the things that we did recently in January of this year is that we worked with the Laguna Woods Village Security. They needed some sort of presentation, a workplace violence presentation. So the Bureau, along with our staff, stepped up, and that's what we did for all their staff. We presented a workplace violence presentation. Next slide, please. Within the Bureau, they have a couple other collaborative groups, one being the community engagement. What do? They're the front lines for educating the residents on matters critical to the public safety. They lead the way in drug education programs for both students and families. They present presentations that cover different types of relevant topics. And here, the pictures you see, we do a biannual national prescription drug take-back. We work in partnership with the city and the community, and we do this twice a year. And the other one, which I was truly proud of, if you see the picture to the right, is one of our Laguna Woods resident, Mr. Tommy Burns. He was celebrating his 100th birthday, and we found out that he was a retired NYPD detective. So we actually wanted to take part in the celebration, and we took our staff and we celebrated the birthday with him. It's only a couple of examples that we've done. Next slide, please. Another one, collaborative unit, is the community relations. It serves the community and nonprofit liaison departments coordinating countywide community relations events, collaborates with the Orange County faith community leaders and nonprofit organizations to maintain, develop key partnerships, and coordinates the Sheriff's Interfaith Advisory Council. The sheriff is part of this advisory council, and it's very important to him that we engage and have these communications and conversations with every faith. So we too reach out to the different faiths in the community, and if there's an opportunity for us to take part and be a part of their celebrations, we do. Next slide, please. A couple other units within the Bureau, the media relations. It's the public information and is responsible for the handling of media inquiries and the dissemination of honest, transparent, and timely communication to the public. It's mindful of public safety, news outlet deadlines, and the limitations the department has its resources. Public relations, responsible for strategic managing the communication process that builds mutually beneficial relationships between OCSD and the stakeholders, and focuses on proactive, positive promotion of programs and services and public education through media, video production, and social media. So the biggest one here is the social media. That's what today's generation can relate with. So we have to be in the front lines in also being part of the social media and pushing any current and relatable information to our community, to the public. One of the things that they do, if we go to the next slide, is they have this program, which is the Stay Safe OC. And every Tuesday, it's actually Tip Tuesday, every Tuesday through all these social medias, they push out Stay Safe tip. And that's what I'm gonna highlight today. And this is in partnership, like I said, with all the communities to reduce crime and to keep our residents safe. As a resident, you could help reduce your chances of becoming a victim of a crime or accident by learning how you and your family can be safe in your home and on the road or around your community. A couple of ways that you could follow us is obviously through Instagram. One is OC Sheriff, and we ourselves have our own here in Laguna Woods, so OCSD Laguna Woods. And same thing, we have a deputy dedicated to putting information that's relevant to us in the community. Perfect example is when we have an elderly person that's missing and it's critical, and so we ask and seek the help of the public. We'll immediately put this on our own Instagram, but also the sheriff's Instagram to help us. We need the public's help, and that's an example of how we do that. You could also sign up for the Alert OC, and that's another social media mass communication system that is available to every Orange County resident. If anything happens within the county, whether a flood, earthquake, fire, if you log on, they'll alert you, and that way you're able to know what's going on around you and see if it affects you. Next page. So this is an example of what they post, the Stay Safe OC. Here's a couple of them here. Home security. As we know, most of the crimes that we see are crimes of opportunity. And we ask and educate the public to don't be a victim. Don't make yourself accessible to be a victim of a crime. So here for home security, we ask that you keep your doors and windows locked and to keep eyes on all the valuables that you have. Sometimes it's easy for us to get complacent because we are fortunate that we live here in Orange County and have great communities, but that also puts us in a vulnerable position and subjected to possibly being a victim of a crime. So we encourage the public to reinforce your doors and windows, consider upgrading, like I said, your locks, and make it a habit of making sure that you lock your doors and windows before you go to bed. And we encourage you not to leave any valuables out in the open because that's going to encourage someone to take them, obviously. Next slide, please. Vehicle security. Same thing, lock your cars. It's easy for us to forget just to hit that button and just lock the door. But statistics say that 9 out of 10 vehicle burglaries that we have are because people left their doors unlocked. And also because they left valuables out in the open. And most of the time, a crook is not going to commit a crime unless, like I said, it's a crime of opportunity and they see the valuables that you left out in the open, so they're going to go ahead and take the chance and take that. So we encourage you to lock your doors, hide any valuables that you may have to prevent it, to avoid being a victim. Next, please. Identity theft. This is big with our Laguna Woods community. We encourage them not to take any or engage in any conversation with any wrong numbers, and never reveal any sensitive information over incoming phones. Never give any personal information because most of the time criminals are looking to victimize you through identity theft. Also, we ask that if a caller from a bank or a credit card is asking personal information, if it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right. We encourage you to hang up and then call them back via the number that you have on your card, whether it's going to be directly to the bank, and now you could ascertain whether it's a phone call that you were supposed to receive or not. Next slide, cybersecurity. This is huge too. Again, never reveal any information over a phone. And we encourage you to turn off your networks, your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth, your GPS, because a lot of times that encourages your cyber criminals to try to connect to your devices and take your personal information as well through those means. Next one would be, this one we are seeing a rise countywide because, us too, because we have a couple shopping centers, our Home Depot shopping center, our Mother's Market, for example, and these are the distraction theft. Some of the tactics that they use for the distraction thefts is they'll offer you to help you load your car. They'll ask you for directions, and it may be a pair or two. And while you're engaging with one, the other one is either trying to steal your purse or your belongings that you left in the unlocked vehicle or unattended. Or a lot of times they'll be doing it via offering you a hug or offering you for you to see their piece of jewelry. While they put it on you, they're actually stealing your valuable jewelry. So those are the couple ways. So we ask you to stay aware of these distraction thefts in the parking lots. Avoid talking to strangers, obviously, and never let strangers put jewelry on you. And keep a safe distance from these strangers, obviously. Next one, please. Personal safety. This one goes without saying. Keep your purse on you. Some of the thefts that we're seeing is especially in the grocery stores. When you go out shopping, you'll place the purse on the top of the cart, And as you may be getting some merchandise, that split second, that's all it takes for someone to come by and take it or take an item from your purse, and you won't realize it until after the fact. It's too late. So we ask you to keep your purse with you. And biggest one is maintain situational awareness at all times, not only shopping, but at all times. You know, be aware of your surroundings, the people around you, and that way you don't fall a victim of the distracted theft like we mentioned. Biggest takeaways, like we said, is be alert, be mindful, protect your personal space, be selective, stay secure, and be assertive. The last slide has obviously the non-emergency number. If it's something where it doesn't necessitate us responding with the licensed sirens and it just you need to file a report, then you could call us through the non-emergency number and we'll be glad to come and take that report. If it's something that just happened and you were a victim of assault, for example, it requires our immediate response. We ask you that you call 911 and we'll come as soon as and as quick as we can, and we'll assist you in any way we can. I also encourage the public to log on to crimemapping.com, and the webpage is there. And through there, you will be able to see the community and where we're getting calls for service. You'll be able to see the general address, not specific address, but the general address, and you'll see what we're being called to. If it's an identity theft report, that'll state on there, and you'll get an idea of what's going on around your neighborhood. So that is there, and you could also log on through our website. One of the questions was asked what's going on with our OC blotter. Through the sheriff's website, ocsheriff.gov, we also have a sheriff's blotter. Unfortunately, the Orange County DA's office in October of last year was a victim of a cyber attack. So it affected all of their networks, and it also compromised some of ours. One of them was the OC blotter. Up to date, we still haven't brought it up online. We're still working on that, but you can still get the same information through the crimemapping.com. As always, my information is there. If you have a comment, request, anything in particular that you'd like to discuss with me, there's my email and there's my phone number. The other question is, what do we get when, if I was to make a California Public Records Act request? And you're going to get what's on the blotter, which is, like I mentioned, a general area of where the incident occurred. You're going to get what the incident was. But depending on the nature of your request, you may or may not get the full details. You may get redacted. And this could be because several reasons. This could be because it's still an ongoing investigation. This could jeopardize the investigation. It could hinder the safety of the informant, whoever placed that phone call or that complaint. And all that is covered under the government code 7923.600. With that, I don't have anything else. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, Captain Alday, do we still have the Take Me Home program for, in case anyone doesn't know, it's for anyone with dementia or memory problems that might wander away, that in advance you can give the sheriff's office their information so they could be right on it. Do you still have that?
We currently are trying to revamp that program through our dispatch center, because if we take your information, our dispatch center will have that information, so that way when your name pops up or your identifiable descriptors, we would have that. So we're currently working on upgrading that program.
Okay, great, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment, and that is, thank you so much for your presentation. We can never be reminded enough of simple stuff. For me personally, just putting my purse in the shopping cart at the grocery store and the department store, just reminders like that. We know better. We're seniors. We know better, but sometimes we just forget. And so thank you so much for that reminder.
My pleasure.
It is easy for us to become complacent, and I recognize that, and I appreciate the reminders. And thanks for the presentation, and thanks for all the good service you give to our city.
Thank you. I'll make sure to pass it on to our deputies. Thank you.
Did you have anything?
I did have a comment since I agendized that there was a purpose behind it. And that is that sometimes people aren't aware of what's going around in the community, and it so happens that there was an incident, and I think that person's probably going to speak to what happened to them when they went to recover the documents that they needed. They found that they weren't the only person. And understanding that, I thought, well, why weren't we aware? I agree that it is our responsibility to be aware of situational awareness, but I don't go around watching everyone expecting them to commit a crime. I'm not going to live that way. I want to be safe. I know who's around me, but I'm not going to be doing that. So knowing that and being sensible, then we have to say, okay, if there's a problem, if I'm aware there's a problem, I'm more likely to be aware of what's going on around me. And I think maybe you might want to tell your story, because I think that's when it was learned what happened, I was really surprised that this was so frequent, and it wasn't a one-time incident. So if you want to do that, then I did have another comment, but I think maybe you want to tell your experience, because I think that tells a lot about what happened. Even though it wasn't directly in our city limits, affected everybody else. Do you want to tell that story? I think it's appropriate.
By all means.
I agree with everything you said, and I wasn't aware as I should have been. A couple weeks ago, I was shopping on a Saturday at Trader Joe's. And I was in the process. The place was really crowded. And I was only in there for about 10 minutes. But I was fiddling around in the freezer. And when I went to check out, my wallet was gone. And then I reported it, and talked to the Trader Joe's. I then learned and had to report it to the Laguna Hills Sheriff's Department, that's because Trader Joe's is in Laguna Hills. And I agreed that if they find them, I'd support prosecuting. Fortunately, I didn't have a lot of money in it, but it was all my credit cards, my checkbook, everything. I had to go through and change everything. I finally got my new driver's license. It came yesterday. So you have to reconstruct everything, as well as then put a block on, for the credit rating services, so nobody can use information, because they have everything. They have your date of birth, they have your driver's license number, they have all the information, and it really opens things up for you. What surprises me is that when I was talking with the sheriff deputy, and another part of it, I was lucky. 20 minutes after I left the store, I was on Santa Maria. I got a call from Wells Fargo saying, "Are you trying to make a purchase for $2,500 at Best Buy?" And I said, "No." And so it stopped the purchase. That was 20 minutes after, I was on my way home from the store to start doing everything. So Wells Fargo really did a good job of blocking it. And when I learned that they had gone to Best Buy, I went down to Best Buy and I talked with them. Now, they wouldn't open up anything to me, but then I reported that to the sheriff, and he went down there, and they had pictures of them. They had them, they sent. And from what I understand, they even have the license number on the car, because they were able to trace it. And this was within an hour and a half that a lot of this was accomplished. So if it happens to you, report it. I think so often people don't. And it's only if we report it and start taking some action will we stop people from doing this, But he's absolutely right. Pay attention to your surroundings. I was watching when I was in Trader Joe's, and there was a couple that was kind of bothering, they were watching me, and I was just, I didn't think a whole lot about it. But I think that was the couple, because it was a younger couple in their 30s that decided that I was going to be easy pickings. And I was. Unfortunately, what I heard then, when I went back to Trader Joe's the next week to do some shopping, I was talking with one of them. A similar situation happened to another woman, only she had $2,000 cash in her wallet. She had just come from the bank and was getting ready to go on vacation. So we really have to be sensitive and very aware of what's happening in our environment. And, it's troublesome. For 70 years, I've operated the same way and never had a problem. It just is, we have to wake up to the fact that our environment has changed. So that's my story anyway.
When you said when you went to report it, that you also learned that you went because you lost your community card, which would be your gate access, that they reported there were a number of people had the same thing happen. Unfortunately, many of those had not reported it to the police. So the police weren't even aware that there had been others. And I think that there are two things here that I would hope would come from this. And one of them is that our local newspaper, which we consider the Globe to be our local newspaper, and because they provide a lot of village information, and I was told that they had difficulty obtaining the information, but I think you commented, and I want to make sure and confirm this, that you said that if they go to www.crimemapping.com, they would get the current information. Is that what I heard?
What you get is the information that we receive, our deputies out in the field, what they receive. So when they receive, our dispatch center receives a call for service, they'll get that information of where this location is at and what's the nature of the incident, whether it's to report a theft, a burglary. And so that's what you'll see. You bring up the map and you'll be able to see that where it's occurring.
Okay, so they can sort that. I'm trying to make sure that this is available for the Globe if they chose to have a column. They did have a column previously. I don't think, some people complained they didn't want to hear about any problem in the village. They didn't think it sells property, but I think there's another side to that. And the other side is, I personally want to know if there's a danger out there. I want to be aware of it. I don't want to find out from somebody who's already suffered the problem. So what I'm asking is if our local people chose to have such a column that they could report these incidents have been reported, they won't have to sort it. Would it be in a format that they could prepare a column? Or are they going to have trouble putting it together?
What you have to consider too is the initial information that a dispatcher gets after the deputy goes and ascertains the facts to the incident doesn't always turn out to be what was reported.
Of course.
And that always is not going to be reported because there's not going to be any follow-up to the blotter. The blotter will only show the initial information given to the deputy to respond. So it may change. And again, based on the investigation, for example, on her case, there was plenty of investigation to be done. And I'm sure that information wouldn't be released, her identity, and the nature of the incident, because there was plenty of investigative to still do. And I'm glad that we got some investigative leads that we could follow up on that. But one of the things that I'd like to share with you is that because we're sheriff's jurisdiction and we have surrounding cities that are sheriff's jurisdiction, we share this type of information. We minimum at least once a month we get together and we discuss what our crime trends are going on in our cities. So we could hear if that's going on in Laguna Hills, we could make sure that I remind my deputies to patrol check our lots, our Home Depot, our Mother's Market, our Aldi Market, to make sure that we're being proactive out there. And they see something suspicious, maybe they'll go ahead and make contact with that vehicle or those individuals.
Okay, just to make sure once more that I'm clear and I fully understand what you just said, if they went to the crimemapping.com, could they obtain enough information clearly that they would look and see that this area has had a series of this type of crime? Or do they have to go through things and try to sort it? Is it in a clear fashion for them? I don't know, I'm asking.
So if we could use an example. So let's say there was a vehicle vandalism in a certain street, right? And there
Or
was
even a general neighborhood, it doesn't have to be the street.
And there was maybe 6 vehicles within overnight that got vandalized, and it was straight vandalized. They broke the windows. Well, a deputy is going to be sent over there, and again, every vehicle is most likely, hopefully, going to report it. So that street will show 5 or 6, however many get reported, and it'll show what it was. Here's the address, a general block address. Here's what the deputy was sent for, which was a vandalism, and that's pretty much the extent. It's the follow-up information, like I said, that you won't be privy to. What was the outcome? What was the investigative outcome?
yeah.
And that's what you won't be privy to. If you want to gather more of that information, you would have to go through our CPRA unit. to
I
gather some
think
of
we
that
were
stuff.
thinking, those of us who want to be informed are thinking more along the lines, not how the case was handled so much as being aware that there is a threat. Make sure you're aware of this right now. If this is the latest, because even the identity theft, they take certain formats, that wears out, people become aware of it, and they change to some other method of trying to obtain your information. So just knowing that it's out there is probably a good warning for most people. I think most people want to know what's going on, so I
No.
hope that's enough information then for them. Thank you for doing that.
If I can interject for a second.
Pardon?
I think Cruz and I can talk about maybe putting out some more information on a more regular basis about crimes that are happening locally. I think what you're getting
That would
at
be
with trying
helpful.
to get the
Thank
blotter
you.
level information
Yes,
probably isn't
yes.
possible, but I think we can do like more regular safety bulletins
Absolutely.
or something along those
Yeah,
lines.
not a problem.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay, yeah, not a
Captain-
problem.
Yeah.
Because
Captain
I,
Alte, I have another question too before you go back and sit down. Another way for people to protect themselves, other than just being hyper aware of their surroundings, would it be copying the front and back of your credit cards and driver's list so you know exactly what was in your purse and you can call each one?
We do recommend, even for ourselves, to, obviously have, know what's in your wallet, right? Because if I lose my wallet today and I get home, well, I don't remember what credit card I did have there and which one I didn't. So if we already know what's in your wallet and your purse, it's easier for you to call those institutions and cancel them before you become a victim of any type of identity theft. Absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you
Hopefully
very
that'll
much.
I think
solve
there's
it.
one public comment in the back.
You have a comment?
If you can come up to the podium.
Ah,
Would you mind coming up to the podium for the viewing audience at home? Thank you.
I just want to say I appreciate what you and your colleagues in the department do. I just wanted your opinion. We have pepper spray on all of our sets of keys. What would be your reaction to that?
Well, if you use it for self-defense, by all means, you have a right to defend yourself at all times. So if a situation presents itself where you have to defend yourself, and that's what
Wonder
you
if
have
it
to
would work
defend
with
yourself,
coyotes.
Would you consider this a good idea?
it absolutely is better than most because most people don't even consider carrying something like that. I can tell you that my daughter's 24 and 21. I have one of those for the
Yeah, mine too. So $10, everybody.
Anything is better than nothing, absolutely.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we go to public comments on non-agenda items. This is the time and place for members of the public to address the City Council on items not appearing on this agenda. Pursuant to state law, the City Council is unable to take action on such items, but may ask clarifying questions of the speaker, engage in brief discussion, or refer to items to city staff, or schedule items for consideration at future meetings. I have one request for public speaking. Bill Kaufman.
Mayor Hatch, is he okay?
He's okay. They're dealing with a family issue.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Council ladies, and I guess we got one gentleman, Chris. Herman Jensen sent a pretty detailed description to the council and to the attorney and city manager on a location that we secured, and we have the approval of the broker and such to put a wellness center in. And we received a response that it was too close to a sensitive area. The sensitive area that I think they're speaking, if you go to the end of the shopping center right across from the Coffee Bean, you go downhill, you have a big fence, then you have a walkway that comes from the park across from Moulton Parkway. You go underneath. And I don't know if they consider that a park, but we looked there, there's no park. There's just an easement there where you can get from one side to the other. And, I've seen in the city of Corona, the same situation, and the council did a variance because as a practical matter, it would take a very long time to crawl over a fence and come up the hill and go to where our location is. With the 600 feet, the spirit, I was with the negotiations, this is 98 on the 600 feet separation. And the spirit of that was if you're on a street and there's a dispensary or a sensitive area, you had to be 600 feet from that on that thoroughfare. Now, if you crossed the street, okay, you would have distance of that, but that barrier, okay, that barrier is a barrier that in the spirit of the 600 feet stops you from saying, okay, there's only 400 feet across the street and I'm here and you're here, that's sensitive area. That's not the case. The spirit was to make sure that you didn't have these types of businesses. And again, we're going back when that was written to, dispensaries that had a little bit of skullduggery in them. They really weren't what they are today. We're a wellness center, okay? And we very much want to represent Laguna Woods. And I believe if you look at this and you actually see what's there, there can't be a sensitive area there. It's a walkway. It's got the underpass from Moulton and so forth. And that was the spirit of the 600 foot for a street that you have here, you walk down the street, you got to be 600 feet away. And when you have barriers like a 4-lane road or a fence or such, that shouldn't be taken into consideration of the 600 feet. And if you go down there in that walk, which we did, and if you looked at the presentation that Herman gave, you don't go anywhere. There's you walk away and there's no park there. And so I guess I don't know, Chris, if he looked at the walkway as being, there's a walkway from a park that's within 600 feet. If you go up a hill, jump a fence, and come to that location. And again, I'm here to, I guess, plead my case to say that we have a very good location, and the broker is very, 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 would love to see a wellness center there. And I believe that Laguna Woods would want one, because we're not a marijuana dispensary. Okay, we go across the gamut of medicinal, and that's why we call ourselves a wellness center. Other than that, that's it. It's nice to see you ladies, I'll tell you. I've been to a number of city councils, but ladies dominate, and I think that's good. I've always been pro. Any questions or?
I have a question. Did you assume or did you confirm that your location was due to that walkway, or was it something else? Did you confirm that?
I believe that was the only, there's nothing else there. The only thing is over that hill, is that correct?
Did you ask the question, though, and confirm what it was?
Well, in communication with Chris, I believe that's what.
It was written?
Yes.
Okay.
Just to clarify, we've exchanged several emails on this. There's at least 3 reasons the location that they're interested in is not eligible. One is the proximity to a glacier park, which is not that walkway, it's across the street. The second is the proximity to the city's library, and the third is that Laguna Cafe, which is located on the same parcel, sells alcohol, and the city's ordinance prohibits cannabis storefront retailers from being located on parcels where other businesses sell or distribute alcohol. So there's at least 3 reasons. We haven't done an exhaustive analysis of the proposed location, but for those 3 reasons, it would already be ineligible. There may in fact be other reasons, but a variance isn't the appropriate mechanism for this. What you're really asking for is the city council to change its regulations related to cannabis storefront retailers. And as I've tried to communicate before, that requires somebody on the city council to agendize such a discussion, and I have not received any interest
Anything
in
from the
doing
city
that. So absent that, that location unfortunately is not eligible per the existing regulations.
From the library, it's 1,200 feet to the front door of the library to that location. But if you take just the parcel that the library and everything else is on, and that it's just across one road, but if you look at just boundaries, yes, those boundaries.
And we look at boundaries because the city council's ordinance that they adopted says that's how we measure it. So it's not an arbitrary decision, that's what the ordinance is. You're asking for the council to change those regulations, which they certainly can, but that's a discretionary discussion on their part, not a
That's what I'm
staff
asking.
issue.
I think if you look at this location and you look what there is, anything to do with sensitive areas or parks, you'll see that it's probably as good as you can get. I mean, there's no young person that's going to even walk up there, let alone come up from a walkway, a park across Moulton Highway, go up the hill and over the fence for what? You know, so I'm asking the city council to look at it because I really feel that the location is a premium location. And again, I've been doing this for, gosh, I don't know, 20 years since the ordinances started, and I've seen a bunch of different ordinances, and I've seen city council look at that and make some rational decisions. That's all I have. But any other questions?
And sorry, before we get too far into a discussion of this, I just want to remind everybody, this isn't an agendized item tonight, so we don't have the ability to discuss it as a council. But if it's something you'd like to talk about as a council, we can put it on a future agenda.
I thought you could ask a question.
You can certainly ask questions. I'm starting to see maybe us heading in a direction of more of a council discussion, so I wanted to send out a reminder.
I hope this is not in the nature of a council discussion. I appreciate your caution. It just sounds to me like you are encouraging the council to be you're encouraging us to act in the spirit of something or other. And it's our job as a city council to make clear, well-defined guidelines and limits and directions as to what our laws say and how they're to be interpreted. And so we try not to be in the business of compromising our rules and ordinances because something looks like a good idea. So, and also, we're just a really small city and we don't have a lot of options. And so I'm sorry that so far we haven't been able to be more helpful to you.
What I'm saying is, I understand that you have to enforce regulations and such, but what I'm saying, the ambiguous nature of distances and so forth can't be looked at and saying,
I'm going to call for point of order in regards to what council has already advised us.
Are we done? Okay,
This was
thank
a
you very much.
It wasn't a question.
Any other public comments? Public comments is now closed, and we come to our city treasurer's report. City treasurer.
Good afternoon. Today I'll be reporting on the city treasurer's report for the month ended March 31st, 2024. Total assets for the month ended totaled $13,526,541. The general fund had $10,107,005, and special revenue funds ended at just over $3.4 million. Cash and investments are broken down by cash and cash equivalents, which included $288,803. Pulled money investment accounts ended at $7,600,000. The LAIF account had $804,092, and OSIP had $6,802,743. Investments were in CDs, which included $5.6 million. This totaled the $13,526,541. During the month of March, there was one CD that matured with principal amount of $200,000, and 2 new CDs were purchased totaling $490,000. One CD was purchased for $245,000 with a 60-month term at 4.3% yield rate, and the second CD totaled $245,000 for a 12-month term of 5.25 yield rate. The city's trust funds as of March 31st were other post-employment benefit trust account and the pension liability trust account. The other post-employment trust account ended with a balance of $138,314 with a net gain of $2,827.71. And the pension liability trust account had an ending balance of $168,216 with a net gain of $3,402.26. During last month's city council meeting, there was an interest in reporting of the city's revenues and expenditures. We will begin reporting on a financial report at next month's city council meeting on May 15th, with reporting revenues and expenditures on a quarterly basis. So next month's meeting will include that, and it'll be as of March 31st, 2024. Staff's recommendation for City Council is to receive and file the City Treasurer's report for the month of March 2024.
Thank you. Any questions?
I thank you for the report, and I move that we receive and file.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
okay, thank you, Liz. Okay, now we come to the consent calendar. All items listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the city council or city staff requests that specific items be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and consideration of action. Members of the public may address the city council on items appearing on the consent calendar, regardless of whether an item is removed for separate discussion and consideration of actions. Would anyone like to remove anything from the consent calendar? Hearing none. Would anyone like to move the consent calendar?
Consent calendar.
Second? Great. Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. So we come to public hearings, which are none, and city council business, where we get to our city manager.
Thank you very much. The first item is a continuation of a discussion that started at your March 20th meeting. This business title of the Laguna Woods Municipal Code item, you conducted a public hearing and approved the introduction and first reading of the ordinance included in your agenda packet. As a brief refresher, there was a broader presentation provided previously, but this ordinance would repeal several chapters and amend 2 sections of the municipal code, all related to business-related requirements, with the intention of clarifying and enhancing ease of use of the municipal code. This is part 1 of what we're imagining is a 2-step process to clean up the business's title. We do anticipate a second ordinance with similar amendments or wholesale repeals of chapters to be forwarded to you in the future. This was something that we undertook as part of our following through on the request that the City Council made last year for a business registration ordinance. We are still on track to bring that business registration ordinance to you at your next regular meeting on May 15th for your consideration. Our recommendation today is that the City Council approve second reading and adopt an ordinance read by title with further reading waived, titled An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Laguna Woods, California, amending sections 6.02.010 and 6.04.010, and repealing chapters 6.06 6.08, 6.10, 6.14, 6.16, and 6.18 of Title VI businesses of the Laguna Woods Municipal Code pertaining to regulations, licensing requirements, and other provisions applicable to businesses operating in Laguna Woods, and determining and certifying that the ordinance is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. I'm happy to take questions. There's also an opportunity for public comments on this item today.
Okay, so public comments is now open. If anybody would like to speak on this, seeing none. Okay, Councilmember Connors.
I just want to thank staff for the detailed work in trying to keep our ordinances in line with state requirements and to clear up conflicts and redundancies. And I'm very grateful that we're reading them by title only.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment? Did you?
I wanted to just ditto what Councilman.
Okay.
You may recall that part of the reasoning behind this is that we weren't always aware of the businesses that were operating in our city. So even though they won't require a license, we will now know who's operating in the city. And this is a prudent action for the city to be aware of all businesses. Thank you.
Would someone like to move this? Thank you.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any opposed?
Yes. Annie seconded.
Okay. So we go on to the solid waste handling service, 9.2.
All right. So as the council is aware, CR&R Incorporated provides solid waste handling services under an agreement that you approved in 2021. The term of that agreement began January 1st of 2022. We're a little over 2 years into the agreement. At this point, it runs through June 30th of 2032 for about a 10-year, 6-month initial term. There is an option to extend that agreement through June 30th, 2037 for that additional 5-year period. That's going to become relevant to some of my comments in just a moment. For the viewing audience, I just wanted to reiterate what we've talked about previously, that the city is involved in solid waste locally because we're required to be. Among other things, there's a substantial body of state law that requires the city to make arrangements for solid waste handling services in the city. State law identifies that as a shared responsibility between the state and the local jurisdictions. And so it isn't just an elective exercise on our part to be involved in the collection of solid waste from private properties. The impetus for today's discussion is really twofold. On one hand, the city assessed just under $81,000 in liquidated damages to CR&R for their failure to meet the recycling diversion requirement for the 2023 calendar year. I want to draw an important distinction here that recycling diversion requirement, as it's currently written in our agreement, is based on previous methodology for how the state assesses the city's compliance with solid waste laws. Under the state's current methodology for assessing compliance, we are compliant. So though CR&R failed to meet the recycling diversion requirement contained in our agreement, that did not render us out of compliance with state law. Yeah, so our agreement includes language that CR&R has a requirement to divert 50% of solid waste from landfills. In years past, and this is several years past, that was measured as you might expect based on waste collected, 50% of that amount. The state has shifted to a per capita based unit of measurement for assessing compliance. So Nadia can probably provide a little bit more detail on it, but it's essentially number of residents in the city. There's a tonnage assigned to, it's not divided among them. You want to walk up to the podium and Nadia can give you a more technical answer.
Good afternoon. It's the city's population, and they take that figure and they take total tonnage to arrive at a pounds per person per day disposal number.
So it is during the day. Each day you would take the number of days and then divide it and divide the people.
They divide it by 365. Yeah, 365 days a year.
So rather than looking at gross tonnage, they've set this per person per day amount of waste based on that metric and the state's guidance for measuring that based on total waste collected. We are compliant with the law. If we were under the previous methodology for assessing compliance, less than 50% of waste has been diverted, but the requisite amount of waste has been diverted using that per capita calculation. So it's just basically the state changed how they measure compliance, and under their current measurement, we are absolutely compliant with state law. They met the diversion requirement for the purpose of complying with state law, but our agreement includes just an older version of the methodology. Yeah. So that was one part of the impetus for starting this discussion about amending the agreement again. The other was just that we've been operating under this agreement since 2022. As with most agreements, particularly long-term agreements, there are things in the agreement that staff would like to clean up or clarify. And there were also a number of items I think that CR&R had an interest in revisiting as well. So we used this assessment of liquidated damages to enter into a discussion of what amendments would look like to the agreement that would potentially result in waiving those liquidated damages, but also leave us in a better place where we have an agreement that is better suited to carry us through that longer 10 to 15-year term. The amendment does a variety of things. We've included a table in your agenda report that walks you through each of the sections and our rationale for the proposed modifications. But probably the most significant amendment is that it provides for the replacement of all of the existing non-low profile bins in residential areas of the city with low profile bins by the end of December 2025. Right now, there are roughly, and these are ballpark terms, but roughly 1,000 residential bins in the community. About half of those have already been replaced with low-profile bins, but that leaves 400 to 500 bins that are still the higher-profile bins that many of our residents have expressed difficulty in maneuvering. So CR&R fabricates a custom low-profile bin for our residents that is roughly 5.5 inches lower on the front. Casters stay the same, but the actual front edge of the bin drops. Those bins are much better received by residents. This is probably the most common request that we receive from residents related to solid waste services. And so the arrangement that this Third Amendment would put us on the path for is, provided CR&R replaces all of those non-low profile bins with low profile bins by the end of December 2025, and importantly at 2 other performance milestones, they hit a certain number of replacements made, the city would waive the liquidated damages that we assessed for 2023. And in addition, we would agree to consider their option to extend through 2037 earlier than we might have otherwise. Right now, the agreement theoretically gives us until 2031 to talk about that 5-year extension. If CR&R made the replacements on the schedule and in compliance with the performance milestones by 2025, they were in compliance with the agreement and they successfully completed the extension review process, then the City Council would be in a position to potentially extend that agreement through June 30th of 2037. Yes.
Okay, the bin, I had a couple. Number one, is it possible?
Oh, sorry, would you push your mic?
Is it possible to adapt the bin rather than discard them? Because it sounds like they're going to have the same cubic, the volume was not going to change.
Yeah, they're the
They're
same.
only lowering the front.
They're the
Is
same
that
size.
correct?
They lower the front, they raise the back. And
Is it
keeps the
possible to
size.
adapt to current bins rather than
It's-
discarding these bins?
yeah,
Must
so
be very costly, I
They're
would
not going to
think.
discard the bins. They're going to use the bins elsewhere in their service
Okay,
jurisdiction.
so
So
they-
you're not generating a bunch of waste with
Thank you.
this.
That's one
But
question.
they can't modify them. The bins right now are like a large, more single form plastic bin.
Okay.
They have to custom fabricate metal bins for this purpose. So they will pull a bin from here,
Okay.
drop it in, and then use it somewhere else.
They can just replace. Okay, that's a good thing. The second one is, I tend to think that the reasoning that residents reaching up, it's easier when it's lower. I get that one too. And you don't want less volume either because they
Yeah.
get very full in some of those large multi-story buildings. I don't understand why there would be damages. Could you explain that? Because,
The liquidated damages, again, relates to that recycling diversion requirement.
okay, so the written part
Yes.
is, okay, so it's a
because
change.
because they failed to hit that, we assessed this 80,000. We've just proposed an arrangement that if they did this low-profile bin replacement, we would waive that liquidated damage amount from 2023. But it doesn't directly relate to low-profile bins.
Thank you. How does one correct language that's dated and isn't appropriate and not?
Yeah, that's part of this amendment as well. So as part of this amendment, we would also update the language in the agreement to conform to the state's current methodology for assessing compliance.
Is that in the agreement, that the correction of the language?
That's in the amendment that's before you today.
Yeah, but is it in the agreement itself that inappropriate language which becomes dated will be addressed and not incur a?
No, so right now, that language is the requirement, which is why that $80,000 was
A
charged.
possibility, it's something I would think about. Can one do that? In fairness to your vendors, I don't know. When you
So we
become
do-
dated in your language, I don't know, is that their problem, not ours? We just leave it that way?
It's something that we maybe could have recognized at the beginning of 2023 and fixed on a going forward basis. It's not something that the vendors could have brought that to us. And I think when they did bring it to us, Chris
Yeah.
immediately entered into negotiations with them. So
That's the best way to handle it?
I mean, it's between the parties to decide what the best way to handle it is.
Yeah, I think where we had come down is, though the language was dated, to use your word, it was nevertheless the contract language.
Right,
And so staff's role is to enforce the contract language.
of course.
At this point, I mean, I think we are on the same page that it doesn't make sense to have that older requirement in there. As far as I'm concerned, the recycling diversion requirement for the city should be whatever it takes to keep us compliant with state law. That's what this new amendment moves us towards. So it does get rid of that dated language, and it does put us on a track of, okay, if CR&R keeps us in compliance with state law, they've met their recycling diversion requirement for the year.
Thank you.
Yep. The agreement, or the amendment, does a couple of other things. I'm not going to go through all of them. Again, there's a more exhaustive list in the agenda report, and we've included red lines in your agenda packet as well. But I wanted to touch on three of them. One is that another thing that was negotiated is that starting on May 1st, any bin lid that is exchanged or replaced or newly delivered in the city would also have a minimum 1-inch overhang from the bin itself. This is again intended to assist residents with maneuvering the bins. Dropping them to the low profile helps, but right now, many of the bin lids are flush with the metal, which requires you to kind of dig your fingers in order to be able to lift it. This would require a minimum 1-inch overhang to allow for a little easier leverage on the bin lid. There's also a consumer price index or CPI adjustment built into the agreement. So the city, in approving the agreement, established maximum rates that CR&R can charge customers. The agreement includes an annual consumer price index on those rates. Right now, that's capped at 5% with the ability to roll over. So in other words, if CPI was 6% this year, they would be able to raise their rates by 5%. And that extra 1% would roll over to next year. And if they had room under that 5% cap, they could count that 1% in that following calendar year. As part of this amendment, we would lower that 5% consumer price index cap to 4%, resulting in at least a slight reduction in, or potential reduction in future customer rates. And then third, I just wanted to call your attention to, this was a request from CR&R. The amendment does allow them to collect certain commercial waste earlier than they do now. So right now, the agreement limits their commercial waste collection to begin at 7 a.m. This amendment would allow them to begin collecting at 6 a.m., provided, though, that those containers are at least 200 feet away from dwelling units. So, for example, this would allow them to collect the commercial waste in the Home Depot Center or in Town Center or in the gas stations at this intersection, but it wouldn't allow them to collect solid waste at 6 a.m. from the Willow Tree Center because the trash enclosures behind the building are within 200 feet of the dwelling units immediately behind the center. This is intended to allow them to start their day a little bit earlier, give themselves a little more breathing room to make sure that they're in and out of the city between the hours that are required in the agreement. Again, there's lots of other changes proposed. Most of them, I think, fall in the category of clarifying existing language or making sure that the existing language conforms to state law. But these are what I would consider maybe the more material to the public and what they might see or feel in the waste collection contract. Our recommendation today, and I do want to note the language in blue on the screen are some additions that we'd like to add, but the recommendation is that the City Council adopt a resolution titled A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Laguna Woods, California, approving and authorizing the execution of a third amendment of the agreement with CR&R Incorporated for solid waste handling services, and determining and certifying that the third amendment is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. We would add to that recommendation with all three proposed references to April 1st, 2024 in section 8.9 revised to read May 1st, 2024, and with the new sentence proposed to be added to the last bullet point in Exhibit A revised to read as follows. The required minimum 1-inch overhang shall apply to all bin lids delivered, exchanged, or replaced, whether by contractor or upon request from a responsible customer or the city manager, or per section 8.9 on or after May 1st, 2024. Just to explain those changes, the April 1st to May 1st change, this item we had hoped to take to you a month earlier. As a result of taking it to you at this meeting, we need to shift the dates for measuring compliance with the low-profile bin lid replacements by 1 month. And then the second correction to that sentence in Exhibit A is just intended to make clear that when they deliver those new low-profile bins, those also have to have the 1-inch overhang lids on them. And with that, there's an opportunity for public comments, and then I'm happy to take any questions as well.
Public comments is now open. Anyone have a comment? I'm seeing none. Is there anyone online?
No online comments any longer.
Okay, well then, public comment is closed. Council, anyone would like to speak to this?
No, thank you.
I do. The waste hauling is a real kettle of fish, if you ask me. And I see it from all areas. I see the problem of, I really am disappointed that I don't think very much is actually really recycled, and that we're spending a lot of money saying we're doing something that's not really occurring. So that's a problem. I have the second problem that I think when we're dealing with anyone, and I realize our job is to protect our residents in their best interest, but it's also not in the best interest to act in ways that are cause a vendor's costs to go up, because that doesn't help anybody. They're going to eventually have to pass them on to us. We all know how that works. So we want to keep our eyes on, make sure we're being clear on what we're doing. I see we are an older community, and we have some particularly challenging responses. Today, businesses want to automate as best they can, and it makes sense. Labor is almost always the major cost of any business, so they want to automate as well as they can and implement that automation. It's very difficult when we have multi-story buildings because, in fact, even the smaller ones that have only 6, I walk by and I see how narrow those doors are to try to wheel that large container out. And not only is it difficult, it's not done by one person. And that's the secret to making more money, is to have less workers. And you can't. When it takes 2 people, one to help push and get it out there, to get it for the truck to pick it up. Look at the buildings themselves and you will see chunks of stucco knocked off and so forth, because they're unwieldy. It's not easy to wheel that in there. And I see how that works. I'm just pointing these challenges that are there, and think about the issue that you cannot drive the truck into a garden villa. you're going to have to get that, you're going to have to wheel it out to where the truck is. That's a tremendous requirement if you stop and think about all these requirements. So I see that, and uppermost in my mind still is how much money we're spending for all these vehicles drive around, and we don't want them to drive any more than they have to because they drive on the streets, they're heavy, and they damage the streets, and they have rubber. That rubber's being worn and deposited in the air just like it is on every vehicle, including electric. So we have those issues. So I see all of these, and I think this needs more thought, in my estimation. Not changing this, but I'm just saying as we go forward, I would like to see more thought giving. Should we be sending so many trucks to recycle if it's not being recycled? That's a big one to me, because there's a lot of money in that, a cost for the village, for everyone, and if it's really going to the landfill, then I have a question that that's really a productive activity, because the whole point of this, save energy, is to not be wasting energy, to not be driving trucks on the roads, to not be using people and so forth. So I think this requires a lot of thought, and I hope that the people who are involved in this are giving it. I'm sure the people who own the trucks want to cut labor. That would be their thought. But I see these challenges, and I'm just bringing this up. What is the most sensible thing? And I'm not sure that we're doing the most sensible thing. Maybe it's all we can do for the moment, and so we have to go with it. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I appreciate Carol's comments about how much we try to recycle and how the market for recyclables often makes it impossible for us to do that. So we're spending money to do nothing. Nonetheless, I think this is a good contract revision. I think this is a good way to use the leverage of liquidated damages to get other things that are beneficial to our residents. And so I move the recommended action.
Thank you. Did you have anything? No. I certainly have something to say about this, too. CR&R has done a lot in the way they restructured the bulky item pickup so that they're not driving in the community very often, and they're much more effective. The people I know are going to be thrilled to get these new lids and lower profile bins, because it's really hard, because the lids are metal right now, so it's heavy. So these will be the split plastic lids like we used to have. It'll be much easier to lift. And the idea of extending the contract is great, because the chaos that comes every time you have to switch out a new hauler, we all get new bins again, somebody else's old bins. So I think these are great changes, and I think it will aid compliance of plastic and things into the recycling, because it'll be easier. So people are more likely to do. I can't wait to talk about this at Earth Day tomorrow. So I think this is a really good thing, and I really appreciate having CR&R. I think they're doing a good job, and I think this is a great change to the contract. So this has been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we come to fiscal year 23-34 capital improvement program. Receive and file a quarterly report on the status of the fiscal years 2023-34 capital improvement program and potential amendments thereof, and provide input to the city manager on potential amendments of the fiscal years 23-34 capital improvement program.
All right.
Chris, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So this is your quarterly update for the current 11-year capital improvement program, or CIP. That is the CIP that began in fiscal year 23-24 and runs through fiscal year 2020 or 2033-34, which sounds very far away, but isn't in practice. The existing CIP for the current calendar years or fiscal years includes 12 projects, 5 of which we've already completed. What we're going to do today is talk about the projects that are underway, and then also talk a little bit about potential amendments that we anticipate for the capital improvement program as we get to next month when we plan to bring you your annual update of the CIP. So first, I wanted to call your attention to two projects that have been or are currently underway. The first is the El Toro Road Medians project. This is the project on El Toro between Moulton Parkway and Calle Sonora. Construction is complete on these medians. Obviously, many of the plantings are small, but they will grow and be much more visible than they are currently. We are wrapping up the maintenance period with the contractor. That ends on April 18th. After that date, we'll be in a position to recommend that the council accept the project as complete, and we'll begin the process of releasing the bonds and so forth for that project. But I wanted to just relay to you that we've received very positive feedback on these medians. I think, especially once the plantings grow up, they'll do a very good job of approximating the medians that have been very well received on Moulton Parkway south of Via Campo Verde. This is just one image of the larger of the two medians, but if you haven't driven out there to take a look at them, I would encourage you to do so. I do think they look very, very nice. The other project that is underway right now is the El Toro Road Moulton Parkway Water Quality Improvement Project. This is on Moulton Parkway, just between, I guess, the Arco AMPM and the self-storage driveways. This was a construction photo taken earlier in the week, but this is the project that is constructing a vegetated swale to treat some of the stormwater runoff from southbound Moulton Parkway. You can see the contractor out there in this image digging the trench for some of the underlayment. There's some of the small retaining walls that are built into the project that you can see. And then you can see the new curb at the back of that sidewalk that's intended to keep people from unintentionally veering off the sidewalk and into what will now not be level ground. This project is underway. We have had a couple of delays on the project, including some rain delays, but we do anticipate that the project will be complete next month. They are, back to making good headway on it, and if we're fortunate and the weather stays sunny and warm, they should be able to move pretty quickly to completion. In terms of other active projects, I just wanted to run through a couple of quick updates for you. So that project that is going on right now on Moulton, that's phase 1 of that project. Phase 2 involves the construction of a treatment unit on El Toro Road, closer to Woods End Wilderness Preserve. We are, if you'll recall, we split this project into 2 phases for bidding purposes. The second phase is more complicated. It involves, because of the placement of the unit, it involves the relocation of some underground cabling and wiring for the traffic signals. So it requires a different type of contractor, obviously, than a landscape contractor that's working on Moulton. That project we're planning to send out for bids on the 25th of this month. We'll receive bids at the end of May. And then if, again, all goes according to plan and we receive competitive bids at reasonable prices, whatever reasonable counts as in today's economy, we would plan to make a recommendation to the council related to contract award in June. And then very likely that project would begin sometime in July. And be completed over the summer. It's like the Moulton project. It's not a particularly lengthy project, but it is a little complicated, again, because of those underground utilities. Another project that we're working on is the Woods End Wilderness Preserve Trail Drainage and Improvement Project. This is a project that the primary purpose is to intercept some of the erosion and soil runoff that comes down the Wilderness Park Trail during rain events. We're using it as an opportunity to also make some improvements to the entry to the park, so both for visibility, for safety, for ease of access for pedestrians. We are meeting with OC Park staff next week to discuss design concepts. We want to get their feedback before we bring anything to the council because under the terms of our lease for Woods End Wilderness Preserve to the county has the ability or has the oversight of the park and is in a position to either approve or deny improvements that we make. So we're meeting with them next week just to get a better sense of what they'll be comfortable with. And then we anticipate coming to you either in May or June with a design concept for your input. And then another project I wanted to talk about, this was the Ridge Route Drive Drainage Repair Project. This is the storm drain that we discovered there was a plug in the pipe on Ridge Route Drive. We have been, for a couple of months now, working to determine whether instead of installing a traditional storm drain device, a catch basin connected to a pipe, whether we could do something with retention and do a more both visually appealing and environmentally beneficial project. Last we talked, during your last quarterly update, we were in the process of scheduling infiltration testing on the property. That would take a look at the composition of the soil and make some determinations regarding whether the soil was actually capable of infiltrating the water. If we were to collect it, would it actually get into the ground and otherwise go away? We conducted that infiltration testing, and unfortunately, the mix of soils in the area does not lend itself towards rapid enough infiltration to where we would, basically, the water would sit there for too long. That is the less complicated way of saying it. But as a result, we've had to move on past that retention basin idea. And instead, we've switched gears and are working with the city of Laguna Hills to advance more of a traditional storm drain infrastructure project that will involve constructing a catch basin, connecting a pipe to the existing storm drain in the street, and then letting the water flow through that system. I believe the discharge is still into Via Reservoir like it was before. It'll just intercept the pipe at a different unimpacted location. It'll be in the same vicinity. So where the deteriorated catch basin is, we're either going to move to. It's closer to the golf course maintenance facility than it is to Clubhouse 4. But where the deteriorated catch basin is right now, that will either be abandoned and a new catch basin constructed in the same general vicinity, or it'll be reconstructed and then a new pipe inserted to tie it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be on the city side. Mm-hmm. It's Laguna Hills Street. So the pipe goes under Laguna Hills Street. Well, the catch basin would be on the city side, and then the pipe itself and the discharge of the pipe, that's within Laguna Hills. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to keep it on our side, right. So now that I can't keep it on our side, it becomes more of a joint project with Laguna Hills. We have talked to Laguna Hills. They're on board with this. They understand the need to do it. We are looking to wrap up our design on this in the next couple of months. And then if the timing works out, Laguna Hills has a pretty significant road improvement project that they're planning on bidding out at the end of the summer or around that period of time. We would be looking to pair this with that project, which should help us get some better economies of scale on the actual construction piece of it. So unfortunate that we couldn't move forward with the retention basin, but obviously nobody wants a body of standing water out there that's not draining quickly enough. A couple other active projects, the Phase 4 improvements for City Hall, which includes some emergency exiting improvements, balcony railing improvements, some window and door replacements, variety of kind of miscellaneous work in the building. Those plans have been approved by the Orange County Fire Authority. They're currently with the city's building plan check consultant. We are hoping to get approval on those plans in the next couple of weeks, at which point we'll be able to put that out to bid. This, as a reminder, is the last phase before phase 5, which is the phase where we would look to reconfigure and refresh the first floor office area, lobby area, all of that. So this is the last round of kind of miscellaneous improvements before we get into that larger phase 5 project. Design is still underway for that project, as it is for the parking lot improvements here at City Hall. We should have movement on those projects by your next quarterly report. Potential modifications of the CIP. Again, we're going to be bringing an updated CIP before you for your consideration at your next meeting. We've talked about the potential modifications on this slide before, but I just want to talk about these really briefly, and then there's 3 others that are newer that I wanted to spend some time on. We are still anticipating including some monies to look at repurposing the detention basin at Woods End that is not serving that purpose. That was the one that we had talked about some months ago, where there's some remnants of some concrete infrastructure. The detention basin itself is pretty impacted by sediment and has non-intentional vegetation growing in it. We're looking at what we can do to clean that up. There is a requirement in the housing element for us to start to prioritize pedestrian accessibility improvements based on a certain methodology. We'll be doing that. At your most recent meeting, you approved an update of the pavement management plan for the city. We'll be updating the CIP for consistency with that plan. We're still waiting word from OCTA on whether they'll be funding the joint grant application that was submitted with the City of Laguna Hills as the lead agency and Laguna Woods as a participating agency for the Paseo de Valencia Molten Parkway Confluence Bypass Corridor project. This was that project that would allow us to make some fiber optic related improvements to traffic signals generally between, or on El Toro between Paseo de Valencia and Molten Parkway, and then on Molten Parkway between El Toro and Ridge Route. So we're just waiting for OCTA's award recommendations to be released. And then we do have a requirement by January 1st to have a plan in place for capital improvements to City Center Park related to the potential new fire station project. Those were required under Senate Bill 475, which was the legislation that will allow that property to be taken out of park use and transition to a partial fire station use. So we'll be working on that coming up. One of the things that you'll see will be 2 community meetings that SB 475 requires to solicit public input on what residents would like to see in an enhanced, smaller city center park. So we'll be working through those. 3 additional modifications that are newer that I wanted to bring your attention to. We have received notice that we're going to be receiving an additional $200,000 in coronavirus-related monies that will be used to support next year's pavement management plan project. That will have the functional benefit of allowing us to use that $200,000 instead of $200,000 from our road maintenance and rehabilitation account that we would have otherwise used. That $200,000 that we won't need to use, we would continue to accrue and then use on a subsequent project. We do anticipate that this is probably the last of the coronavirus-related monies that we'll be receiving. In the revised pavement management plan, there was a change made to the fiscal year 25-26 project. That 25-26 project now includes repaving eastbound Santa Maria between Molten Parkway and the western terminus. One of the things that we had mentioned when we talked about the pavement management plan was that there's a section in the middle of Santa Maria that is within the city of Laguna Hills. So we approached the city of Laguna Hills to talk about whether they'd be interested in joining with us on this project so that we could just repave the entirety of eastbound Santa Maria as opposed to starting and stopping before their smaller portion of it, which I believe is between like 0.2 and 0.3 miles. They are happy to participate with us on that. And so as we get into that 25-26 project, we'll be managing the project, but Laguna Hills will contribute their share of the cost for their portion of the repaving, which I think will just be a better experience for everybody once it's done. And then One of the projects that we have in next fiscal year's capital program is the transit shelter and street furniture replacement project. This is to start the design process of designing bus stop related amenities specific to the city, with the expectation that come 2027, when our agreement with Clear Channel Outdoor expires, that it will either not be something that that company will want to renew, or if they want to renew it, it'll probably be at terms less favorable for the city than we would like. So we are trying to position ourselves to be ready to replace bus stops, the shelter components, the trash containers, that sort of thing, with our own infrastructure if and when that agreement is terminated or otherwise expires. We have a little bit of time still before we get to 2027. Given our current workload, we're planning to propose pushing that project from next fiscal year to the fiscal year after that, so into the next 2-year budget cycle. We'll still have plenty of time to come up with those designs and eventually move forward with construction. I think we were a little ambitious and hoping we could get it taken care of next year, but I think we can push it and not lose anything in the process. And again, that's just the design component of it. Once we have the designs, then we would need to talk about actually, what the plan is to replace those transit shelters. Those were my only comments today. There's an opportunity if the public has anything that they'd like to comment on, and then I'm happy to answer any questions. No action required today, just a informational matter, and if you have any input you'd like to share, we're happy to hear that as well.
Public comment is now open. If anyone would like to comment on this, is there anyone online or on the phone? No? Okay, seeing no desire, I will end public comments. Council, to receive and file. Does anyone have any further questions for our city manager?
I did want to compliment the procedure on what's happening on Wilton. It's definitely improving with those trees.
Yeah.
I think it really, the design of even having the soil is marked off in different colors, it really is an improvement.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you like it.
Okay, we come to our next item. It's a We the People installation. Councilmember Moore, like to explain this, please?
Our city
Would you push your mic? Sorry.
Our city has a sign which is visible from driving along El Toro to identify the building. So if someone's looking for the building, they can look up there and see, and it says City Hall of Laguna Woods. When you're not driving and you're walking up here, there're just a bunch of doors, and you're not really aware which door you might want to enter if you're interested in getting a permit or whatever. And these doors, even the doors to this, are usually locked. Even right now, I suspect they're locked. So it's helpful to identify for people to know where they're supposed to go. It seems like rather than putting City Hall above and the City Hall down below, it would be redundant, obviously. This is not a complicated situation. We could all just sit around and discuss what might go there. We could have something about birds or whatever for lovers of birds. However, the most appropriate thing would be something that relates to government, because the people are coming in here using the services of their city government. And of course, We the People is the beginning of the preamble to the Constitution, which begins, "We the people, in order to form a more perfect union," so on and so forth. So it seems it's 3 words, it's easy to identify, and it solves an issue rather than being redundant. I did receive this, which I have to take issue with, that we would instead go out to our neighbors and ask them what they think we should put up there. "In God we trust," or whatever. I don't think that would be a sensible solution, because number one, I see on here, and I think everyone has a choice to make their comments, of course, but first off, did we need something? Yes. We don't want to we could put City Hall again, but it seems a bit redundant. What makes sense? Somebody wrote cannabis in here. What that has to do with identifying the building, I know not. So I think that's a red herring that has nothing to do with anything. In fact, it could cause division. I think going out and asking people, the problem with that is did the people understand what the question is? Why do we need something up there? And if you ask 7 people and she asked 14, is that really representative? We could have a vote and put that on. I think that cost about $50,000 last time I recall talking about a vote. So I think we've made something very complicated. Do we need some words up there? And is there anyone who disagrees that we need to identify where the building is? I don't think we would disagree on that. So it gets down to a simplified solution, and that's the solution that I'm offering. So I move that we install, we the people, above the doors, not to the council chambers, but to the doors to the city hall, so that people will know where they go. They don't see a series of doors. It's identified. These are people to our Constitution. It's the highest law of the land. Anything else could be appropriate, but I don't think it should be religious in nature. So that kind of narrows the field. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Yoli, would you please read Mayor Hatch's comment?
Certainly. After my Monday's meeting with our city manager to go over today's agenda, I went outside, and from the patio steps and other spots in the patio, I studied the facade of our City Hall building. I concluded that indeed there is an extended blank space of white walls across that entire front. A possible identifying City Hall over the entrance door has been usurped by the large illuminated signage below the roof. Conclusion: some identifying indication that you are entering City Hall would be of value, a plus artistically. Carol has suggested a phrase appropriate because of its appearance on our national constitution, "We the People," be placed above the sliding doors. Assuming we believe it a plus to have some phrase over that doorway, I did some reading on other possibilities. Examples: "In God We Trust," "E Pluribus Unum," etc. None seemed to fit. Then I realized and thought there are only 5 of us on this council being asked to make a decision that by its own terms, i.e. we the people, involves 17,000 plus people, not just this city council. When cannabis first surfaced, the first thing we did was go to the people. Do you want cannabis sold in the city? Then years ago, what shall we name our new city? We went to the people. So my suggestion to our council is that we ask the residents of this city their opinion. Occasionally, it seems to me we need to let the village folks know that there is a functioning organization that interestingly plays a somewhat significant role in the well-being of their lives day by day, and that we value their opinions and input. This gives us an opportunity to reach out to them. So how to do it? Surveying the non-village housing units should be easy. Surveying the village folks, I suggest, could be done fairly simply. Examples: 1, take straw votes within the next, say, couple of months at meetings of clubs, particularly the large ones. 2, properly phrase notification to the club members by their club email, seeking objections if any. 3, use of village TV interviews, etc. 4, appropriate article in Globe. We would not be interested in a specific count, just an A's have it result. Conclusion: upon reflection, after an initial tepid attitude, I think unless some strong public objection appears, and given a positive result from the above survey steps, that this proposal, which I think makes a quiet statement about the city of Laguna Woods and the people of that city, their character, strength, future, and relevance in the affairs of Orange County and beyond, should be approved by council. I support it and suggest that a program as above suggested be undertaken before a final vote on the proposal is taken. I would be pleased to assist in that task.
Thank you, Yoli. I believe Annie asked to speak next.
Yes, and I applaud Councilwoman Moore for seeing a need to fill a space, and I think it's a really good idea I do have some strong objections to the words "we the people," even though they come from the Constitution itself. The Constitution was written when my people were enslaved. So the Constitution was written for the people, by the people, but all the people were not included. So when I see the word "we the people," it does not feel inclusive to me. So were we to fill that with something, I would recommend that we do look at something that is inclusive, and because I believe that "we the people," for me, it's not inclusive, it's exclusive. It was not inclusive from the beginning. It was just a small group of people who said "we" in order to form a more perfect union. So basically, what I'm saying is, from a people that were enslaved and not free to make a decision to include language that is out there, could, you know, it's triggering. It triggers emotion. So I applaud your reasoning for wanting to fill the space. I just think if we're going to do it, we need to choose words, and we need to choose our words wisely.
Thank you. Councilmember Connors.
I agree that it's worthwhile to put a sign over the door that goes into City Hall, so that when people get up onto the patio and they see this row of doors, they know which one to get into to get your City Hall services. And I think actually putting a sign up that says City Hall is the best way to do that. Because frankly, when you're standing on the patio, as you walk up and you're trying to figure out where to go in, you can't see that sign at the top of the building. Historically, "we the people" seems like it means all of us. But as Annie pointed out, it didn't mean all the black people. And in fact, it didn't mean us or you or you. It meant Chris. It meant white men who owned property. That's what it meant at the time. And now, 200 years later, women are losing their rights to bodily autonomy. Black people are being disenfranchised by redistricting and clearing of the voter rolls. Brown people are being required to show their papers. Asian people are being insulted and assaulted because some have blamed China for COVID. And "we the people" is still not an inclusive phrase. I like the concept of unity and equality. I like the concept of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But if you're telling people what door to walk into to get City Hall services, I think you should just say City Hall. And we could put other aspirational things that represent the nature and the character of our city somewhere else on the building. We can hang a plaque in our council chambers, or we can put it on one of the windows or something like that. So that's my thought.
Thank you. I also have thoughts about this. And yes, women have lost the rights. Women that are half this country and gave birth to everyone in this country have had our rights taken away. We're losing the right to our autonomy, to medical care for conditions that women experience. We've lost the rights to plan our families through IVF and birth. We're losing it from birth control and Planned Parenthood. We've lost our right to choose. And some states have taken us back to where the Comstock Act was, when women didn't even have the rights to vote. In other states, they're putting bounties on us or anyone that might help us. So I agree that I would prefer to have our city values, like diversity, equity, and inclusion, above the door, but I think entry or City Hall would work just fine. And I think it's terrible timing right now when all this is happening with women. I think we should table this until we get our rights restored. So those are my thoughts. So are we ready? Is there any public comment? Is there anyone online that would like to comment on this? Then I believe we're ready to vote.
No, I would like a substitute motion if I accept that you have a problem with "we the people," but e pluribus unum, I hope everyone understands it's from many one. That means we're united. That's a simple statement. To put entry, I think we could put make it more interesting than that. E pluribus unum, I hope that's not offensive. From many, we are one, we're united. If we can accept that, then I would substitute the motion for e pluribus unum. And it identifies the city hall, it's not redundant, and it has a positive aspect.
I'm going to interject for a second. Because of the way the agenda language is phrased, I think what I would suggest, because it seems like there's interest in putting something over the door and
I
there's
think we can have a substitute
disagreement.
motion.
I'm a little concerned because of the way the agenda is written, that it was specific to we the people. I would suggest maybe putting it on a subsequent meeting with a broader, like, let's talk about what to put over the door. And then we could talk about e pluribus unum, or if it turned out that there were objections to that, we could talk about
Or?
anything. No, I mean, if it turned out that there were.
I hope not.
We could come up with something else, but I would suggest maybe like a broader agenda
Okay.
item to have that discussion.
I would hold in with e pluribus unum. I wouldn't in God we trust, I think for obvious reasons, but a pluribus unum is an easy phrase that it's enlightening and it's educational. It identifies the door. I think entry, I think, is a bit fair. And I think this isn't a discussion of women's rights, because I too believe in women's rights, but I don't think we put women's rights up there. We do need some men up here anyway. So I think that would be a redundant statement. So I think let's keep it on the argument, which is about noise, about identifying the door, and not off on other.
If there isn't any objection, I can certainly add something to your next agenda
Okay,
to talk about this.
I
if
accept
we're
that, okay.
open to-
And I'm putting forward e pluribus unum, it's a simple
Sure.
phrase, and I think it's acceptable.
I have a question here. So you made a motion, so what happens with the motion? The motion was never second.
No,
So-
we will
Okay.
move it forward.
Okay, so again, so what happens with the motion if it's?
It's not seconded.
Okay, right. Okay, that's what I wanted someone to say. I wanted someone to say that so that,
Right. Good
Okay,
point.
so we'll add something to your next agenda to talk about
Okay.
what to put over the entry. And I would say that the timing is really good. I think Councilmember Moore is on the right track because phase 4 of the City Hall project is where we were looking to include text over there. That's the one that's in building plan review right now. So the timing will work out really well that whatever you decide you'd like to put over the door, we can turn around and include in that project and do it pretty quickly. So,
Sounds good.
all right.
So we can vote this down knowing that something new will
No,
be
You don't have to
on.
vote it down, you just move on.
Wasn't seconded.
Without lack of a second.
Okay,
There is no vote.
okay. So we'll come to city council reports and comments. Greenbelt Authority, Councilmember McCary.
there was no meeting this month. We meet in May.
Okay, thank you. Orange County Fire Authority, I believe you said there was a video?
Yes, so Mayor Hatch extends his regrets for not being here today, but he did ask that we play a short minute-and-a-half video. This is related to OCFA's open house event. So if you give me just a second, I will put it up on the screen for you. That concludes the video. That was what Mayor Hatch sent along.
Did he want somebody to comment on that? Maybe you want to, because you attended.
I attended, and it was a whole lot of fun. It was sort of equal parts little kids and big machines. Well, equal parts little kids trying out stuff, fire hoses and fire extinguishers, and huge, big equipment. And I have to say, lots of good-looking guys in firefighting uniforms. So when it comes around next time, Noel will announce it, and I encourage you to go.
Thank you.
The Orange County Library Advisory Board, Councilmember Moore.
Yes, the library board will be meeting. It's actually coming up. I did want to comment. I had a contact from someone asking about the attendance at our library, and I think the person didn't understand, and I understand that. That's why you should ask questions rather than tell. And the person wanted to understand. First off, our library didn't open until with full service. The library's been very busy, but it didn't open with full services, meaning access to computers and those kinds of things, until January. And so the person asking the question was trying to compare the library with the other libraries, and also we're in Tier 1. We are not a larger library, so you couldn't compare the attendance of our library with a larger library. So that was a problem. And also the library with full service didn't open having computers and those kinds of services. But our library is very busy, and in fact, sometimes just because the number of people going in and out of the library doesn't seem real high, not infrequently, book clubs, one person comes and picks up books for a whole group of people. So there's that aspect. And our library is not designed to be a library where people come and play games and hang out. They use the computers or there for something specific. It doesn't have the floor space, never was intended for that. But also, the library provides materials for people who order them. So if you were to go in there and you'll see the shelves have names. The books are behind names, and they're behind names because people specifically ordered those books, and so a service was performed in obtaining the books and placing them there for the people that are going to come in. But when they come in, they don't come in to browse, generally. I won't say never, but that's not the primary purpose of the library, because this library, the people who use this library tend to be heavy readers, and they are people who want access to a wider range of books. And that may mean ordering in books or getting books that are on the current market or bestsellers. So I'm just pointing that out because there was some confusion on the library and what the library does. On another occasion, someone mentioned to me that they saw several people in there, but they didn't see many people. And so they believe that, why do we need those people in there? Because there aren't many people hanging out in the library. And it's, in appearances, it would appear that. That's why it's good to ask, do you need that many people? And yes, we do, because they are obtaining the books and fulfilling the needs of requests that are made perhaps online and over the phone, and not coming in to just peruse and see what's there and take a book home to read. So I hope that answers some of the questions people had. Go ahead.
And I just had a comment, an experience, because there were a couple of books that I needed and they didn't have them. So I was able to order those books from Amazon. And so the books came to me directly from Amazon. And when I'm done with them, I just put them back in the original delivery envelope and I bring it back here to this branch and they'll ship them back to Amazon. So it was a very smooth process.
I'm glad you brought that up, because when she says that, it was delivered to your house. Yeah. She didn't even have to come in here. I mean, would you want to explain what happened? Because that's one of the services that we offer. Exactly. And it was a book that wasn't even in the system, the ones you ordered. Go ahead.
Exactly. They were not in the system. And so I asked them about it, if they maybe could order them. And one of the librarians suggested you can go on Amazon I used my library card, I used their computer, and I ordered them, told them the books, and then they shipped them directly to my house. It came as an Amazon delivery, not a USPS. It was an Amazon delivery to my house. And there's a little slip of paper inside that says, when you're on the date that these are due to return, put them back in the original envelope, take it to your library branch, and they'll send it back to Amazon.
The interesting thing about that is that was no cost to the library. That sounds like, well, there's what a tremendous cost. There was no cost at all. If someone else there seems to be a need to purchase the book, then the library would push it. Otherwise, she received the books that she wanted for free, no cost to the library or to the county. So those are the services. And if you understand that, what happened to her, think of there were people involved in it, eventually when she returns it to the library. And so action is being taking place, and it's not so obvious as to what's happening. Thank you for bringing that up.
And to whoever asked the question, those are not our employees over there. They're employed by the Orange County Public Library, so they can have as many people there as they choose, so. Okay, the Orange County Mosquito and Vector Control District. We are in the process of buying a new building, and I think we've narrowed it down to 2 because we need one with a lot of parking because we have a huge fleet. And so we've narrowed that down to 2. Also, there's been quite a lot of dengue in Puerto Rico and in South America right now. And unfortunately, we have the mosquitoes here to spread it. So if you're in Puerto Rico or South America, please wear repellent. You don't want to come home with dengue, get bitten, and spread it to everybody else. So that's all I have for mosquito and vector. San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency, Councilmember Connors.
First, we did boring things like modifying our toll enforcement ordinance to comply with the new state law, which is what we've done several times here today already, going through the minutia of how much grace period to give toll violators to pay their tolls, how to place or release DMV holds on folks who have large balances due, how to modify payment plans for low-income road users and things like that. Most of the things in the state statute incorporated the best practices that the toll roads already did, but we made a number of revisions. We also talked about our capital improvement plans. The primary one is the flyover from the 241 northbound to the 91 eastbound. That still has a ways to go because it requires dovetailing all of the 241 traffic into the 91 eastbound toll lanes using different hardware and different software and different toll rates. And there's a lot of communication between us and Orange County Transportation Authority and the Riverside County Transportation Commission. And I have to say, it's going to improve that backup, but it's not going to eliminate that backup. So sort of like spending a lot of money for recycling, this is spending a lot of money and not getting an excellent result, but it should be a somewhat better result. Anyone who's been on that road at 4 or 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon knows that you can wait 30 or 40 minutes to get through that interchange. And the last thing I have to say is that the cows are out at Cook's Corner. They should be there till the end of this month. And if you get a nice day, it's a lovely drive to go up to Cook's Corner and have lunch. I recommend the tuna melt. My friend said not so much on the hot dogs. So when I was there, the cows were on the other side of the hill, so I didn't really get to see them, but it was a good excuse to go up and have lunch al fresco. The cows are selective grazers, and what they prefer to eat are the invasive species. And so that works out well for us.
It does.
So they come out we put them in this area just across Oak Canyon from Cook's Corner for a couple of weeks in the spring, and they eat all the little soft green buds that are coming up. And then we take them away and we bring them back in the fall, and they eat all the dried out thistle and flashy fuels, and they eat the seed pods before they actually drop their seeds. So in doing that, it removes the invasive species and allows the natural flora and fauna to flourish. We have completed our 3-year pilot program, and the cows are now a regular tool in our toolbox for mitigation of invasive species. And I took a couple of flyers up and I talked up the program and handed out flyers to big guys with lots of beards and black vests, but they were all very receptive. So it was a good day.
I had a occasion to observe those extra lanes. I had a problem with my computer, and I decided to drive into Los Angeles once I identified what I thought the problem was and discovered there was something I needed. It was in Los Angeles. It was 2.5 hours up and 2.5 hours back, 5 hours of driving into Los Angeles. And I have to tell you that I looked over when I got to someone told me when they get to Orange County and they see the lanes open, that they feel like the angels come down and sing hallelujah. And that didn't happen, but I think it was close to happening. I could not believe how long it took, but I did see those lanes. And when they had what I think were those toll lanes, that they're adding. And when I saw those, I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't envy them. I saw them because I thought up ahead then there must be some open lanes. And all I knew to do is I had no idea where to get, I couldn't stop and take, I don't have maps on my car, but I did know that I needed to get to the ocean. If I could get to the ocean, I knew I'd get to the 405, so I headed towards San Pedro and then worked my way down, but my gosh, 2.5 hours, 2.5 up, whoa. And I noticed, by the way, when you were talking about the bus, I was going to bring that up, that I noticed that OCTA has cut back on the buses, and, there's the issues of how people move around the county, so there you go.
South County Watershed, Councilmember Moore.
It's, Orange County Watershed has not met. We will be meeting soon. I did want to point out that there is a cleanup if you're interested in the runoff is an issue because, of course, Chris was responding to it when he was talking about the catch basins. Their purpose is to clean up the water before it gets to the ocean because all the cigarette butts, oil, everything else goes. But there is one this Saturday if you're interested in volunteering. Cotty Petrie Norris has another one, and it's the Santa Ana Deli Channel again. So anyone who's interested, it's a good chance to feel good and clean up the environment.
Okay, thank you. Liaisons to community bridge builders. I just want to say we finished our one song that'll be coming out soon. Most of you have heard the little YouTube. It has almost 4,000 plays already. I don't know, hits. And our speaker on May 5th is a Fernando Torres Gil. His career includes an appointment by President Bill Clinton as the first ever U.S. Assistant Secretary on Aging in the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. As the Clinton administration's chief advocate on aging, Torres Gil played a key role in promoting the importance of the issues of aging, long-term care, and disability, community services for the elderly, and baby boomer preparation for retirement. In 2010, President Barack Obama appointed him as vice chair of the White House on federal matters related to disability policy. During his public service in Washington, D.C., he also served as staff director of the U.S. House Select Committee on Aging. So he's going to be our speaker May 5th, and I hope everybody comes to hear it, because we've been doing quite a lot of work on aging, and ageism. So it should be really interesting. Any other comments or reports?
One comment about the bridge builders, and we just celebrated our 1 year as a club. So,
Yes, we did.
so
Thank you.
and we are at almost 300 members, and these are all members of Laguna Woods Village. So, kudos to us.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. And go ahead.
Speaking of the 1 year anniversary of the club, we should think that we are at the 1 year anniversary of the shooting at the Irvine Taiwanese Presbyterian Church. And I want to say how gratified I am that our city moved within days of that event to start this organization and to start to take tangible steps to bring healing and binds drawing us together and to overcome the things that try to divide us. And I think we should consider that a tribute and a suitable response to the tragedy that happened in our community. And we should be proud of ourselves for that.
And also, it's created ripples of caring and kindness. You see it in other clubs, in the programs they produce and the things that they say. So I'm very gratified by that. Thank you. Yes, I think we'll have a commendation for them next month. Do we have any closed session? No, seeing none, then I guess we can adjourn to our next meeting, Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 at 2 o'clock, right here at Laguna Woods City Hall. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you.